Hello, and I'm so excited to offer this next installment in our interviews with experts throughout the country on different topics for our UCLA Special Topics in College Counseling. And today with me I have Margaret Katz. Maggie hails from Massachusetts. She works for the College Internship Program. Maggie, welcome. We're so glad to have you with us today.
Hi, welcome. Thank you also for having me. I'm really delighted to be here.
Maggie, can you give us a little bit of background for my class? This class has counselors, teachers, advisors from all over the world, and they're all working with students. And so give us a little bit of information about yourself, your background, and what the College Internship Program is.
Sure, thank you. So my background is that I started out in my 20s working in college admissions, and I worked for Ursinus College in Pennsylvania and was acting director and associate director, and I worked in admissions for about 12 years. And then my husband and I did an unusual thing in my when I was 33. We went in the Peace Corps, and we served in the Peace Corps in the Marshall Islands, and I was a teacher there. And that, why I bring it up is it calls out the need to learn how to transition into a big change. And so that served me in my work as well. And then when we came back, I had my daughter, who is now a senior in college, and she's going to be 22. And I then started working here in the Berkshires at a Berkshire Country Day School doing admissions for pre-K through 12. So I was working with high school students as well. And what happened with that was that I got burnt out, and I decided to take a little time off. And then just serendipitously, my neighbor worked for, we shortened it up to CIP, which stands for College Internship Program. And she said, we really need someone like you to work with our families through the admissions process. And long story short, I started working for them, and I'll tell you what CIP is and stands for. And I've been with them for 13 years, and I have done admissions, and I still support admissions, and I also did transition with our students actually from our program when they're in their 20s onto their next steps. And I do a lot of speaking. That's mostly my role now, is speaking to parents and professionals and on strategies for supporting students through transitions, mostly to college and also afterwards. But my focus tends to be more on the transition to college. And,
fabulous.
Yeah, so I'm excited to be sharing some of that with you.
And so go ahead.
I was just going to say, it would probably be helpful just to give them a little idea of our students and the kind of students we work with. So would that be helpful?
Yeah, no, that sounds very appropriate. That would be helpful.
Okay, yeah. So our students, our niche of students, so first off, we're a program, we're not a college, and we work with students 18 to 26, and we have year-round programs. We have 6 of them, and one is here in Western Massachusetts in Lee, and then we have others, 2 in California, 1 in Bloomington, Indiana, and Florida, and Western New York. And our niche of student, definitely almost all can do college work and can graduate college, and they need to go at a slower pace with a lot of support. So we offer that in-depth, comprehensive support to help them be successful in college, in their internships, in careers. So that's our emphasis. They come live at our programs, so it is a very immersed, all aspects of growing up and transitioning into young adulthood. That's how we support them, is in every aspect, from organizing to working, their money, getting their papers ready, all those kinds of things. We support them with that. And many of our students come from all over the country, and some from even other countries as well. So that's really our niche. We also work with them on careers. And our students are going to need more help with figuring out the transition process, and that's why I wanted to talk about that today. For that kind of student who, whether or not our program would be appropriate, just what are some things that would be helpful to know?
So in terms of questions that we should be asking students that we work with about readiness and transition, what has to be in place when those first 2 weeks, when they come to your program or they come to college, what should be in place those first 2 weeks? Yeah,
well, the thing that is often not in place is something that is sort of like the elephant in the room, or something that people glitch over, and it's so basic, it gets missed because it's so basic. And one of the biggest ways that students get tripped up is they can't get themselves up in the morning. So that's one of the questions we need to be asking them, and you wouldn't think that would be a counselor question, but do you get yourself up in the morning? And if it's sort of like, well, my mom calls, keeps getting me up, or they're like, sort of, then you know that skill may not be in place yet. And I would explore more if they're pretty clear about that they aren't doing it. And the reason is that a lot of times as parents, and this is where we can support the parents as well, we don't like our students to struggle. We don't want them missing school. And so we wake them up and we don't let them build that muscle, build that skill. And in a way, we need to give the parent permission to not wake them up, so that it's better to take the chance of missing some of high school where it's not so high stakes. Whereas in college, if they're not getting out for their classes in those first 2 weeks, they're really sunk, as you know, like in the beginning. And one of the things I would just say is to literally encourage the parent and the student to say, okay, at least once a week, no one's going to help me get up. And let them experience that, knowing that they have to do it. And it's really hard for a parent often. Just quickly, myself, my daughter doesn't have a learning difference or disability, but the way I helped her was that I actually travel a lot, and I didn't know this would be so helpful at the time, but by going away, my husband was already off to work. She knew that if she didn't get herself up, she wasn't going to get to school. So that you kind of need that extremeness of like there's no backup. And it's huge. It sounds maybe like it's not, but they need to practice it, and not just in the days right before they go off.
Absolutely. Absolutely. They need to learn how to use an alarm clock and what that means when they're in high school. So what are other things?
And one of the other ones that trips up a lot of students is ask them if they are taking medications. And if they are, there's a whole set of things they need to know. First off, do they know why they're what it is and why they're taking it? What purpose does it have, and how does it help them? And you'd be surprised, a lot of students can't articulate that very well. So they need to know that, number one. And number two, do they take it themselves with no help? In other words, is no one, we want them to be at a place where they don't need constant reminders. Because again, when they get to college, there won't be anyone, if they're not staying home to go to college, there won't be anyone to remind them. And again, if you're, say, ADD or ADHD, and you're not taking it, you can't focus, again, they're going to fall behind very quickly. So again, practicing and having the parent or support, let them, go through that practice and maybe even a little struggle of forgetting sometimes, so they know how to do it. And then just a follow-up to that is, which I think most students don't have experiences, do they even know how to refill their medications? Because that's another way that when they run out, if they're successful at taking them, are they knowing they need to refill them and where to go and all those pieces? So someone needs to help them have those pieces. And again, as a counselor, you're not going to do that specifically, but asking those questions and making sure a parent or someone is supporting them in that process.
Absolutely. I know I often tell parents and talk to them about introducing their students to managing finances and have them give their students an ATM card at least by their junior year so that they can have that experience before they get to college. This is another thing. A lot of times parents just don't, that's not a skill they build for their students. So you mentioned something about summer programs. So how do those fit into this for your students?
We, another thing that we do that is for students, and it's actually for high school students, and then it's for students who are college age. We have 2 different programs, actually 3. We have summer programs that are for high school students after sophomore year, and they go off to a college campus with our staff, and it's not so much about academics as it is about learning things like self-advocacy, learning more about themselves, just getting on a campus. A lot of our students haven't had a lot of experience going away from home. A lot of our students are also on the autism spectrum, so they're not necessarily comfortable with change. And it gives them that chance to first even to see, what is it like to be on a campus? What is it like to eat in a dining hall? What is it like to have a roommate? And to also have a lot of fun. We do a lot of fun in our programs too, so that it's team building, fun building, and also skill building in terms of some of these things we're talking about, like getting up and taking their meds and those kinds of things. And there are other colleges and programs that offer summer programs as well that are short. They might be anywhere from 2 weeks to a month. And it's enormously helpful. The biggest thing that comes out of it is the student gains confidence that they can do it. And their parents gain confidence, not only in their student, but as a parent, they gain confidence that they can handle, they don't have to be so anxious about the student being able to do it. So it takes out some of that anxiety for both parent and student.
Good idea. What kind of questions do we overlook as counselors or advisors when it comes to readiness and support about the emotional and the well-being, social well-being of students? So what things should we be asking or trying to help parents and families cover?
Well, one of the things is if the student has had, which our population students, many of our students have had some kind of coach or counseling support along the way. If they've had that, for them to go off to college and suddenly not have that, especially if that person has been one to help them problem solve, each day or each week. Again, that's a way that they can, in the first couple of weeks when everything's unfamiliar, where they're in a very, you interviewed Harlan Cohen, this whole idea of getting comfortable with the uncomfortable, they're going to be uncomfortable. So for them to have some support, in addition to the supports at the college that they at first might be hesitant to go to because it's not familiar. So if they have a support system, can that person, if they're working with a counselor or a social worker, can that person keep Skyping with them, say, through that transition, so that they have a familiar person? It's not just the parent, because we don't want the parents carrying all that. We want the student to be building those skills. And as professionals, they tend to be asking the questions of the student, so the student comes up with the answers, whereas parents often, we just give the answers instead of letting them develop and take them internally into ourselves. So that's a really big thing that very, very few parents and students do, is keep accessing a support system they had from home through the transition. Maybe they'll keep it going, but especially in that first month when there's so much discomfort, and it will help them also know that that's normal. They'll have someone to normalize it for them. The other one is, again, these are ones that are sort of out of the box. That's why I'm bringing them up. For your students who are not so good socially, who may be on the spectrum, there are ways that they can get like a peer mentor or peer support. And what we found is that particularly if resources are challenging in terms of both paying for them and finding them, schools that have like a graduate program with students studying psychology or want to be psychologists, there are a lot of students who want to work with this population and they want experience working with the students. So finding someone who's skilled at that, but also being mentored, professionally, so as a peer mentor, can be enormous. Again, especially in the first couple of weeks, to have someone who's young, and can be, you know, give them advice, but also support them in taking it on themselves. So they usually really like that support, the students.
Mm-hmm.
It's something they don't typically cite, especially once they've met the person and it's like, oh, okay, I'm comfortable with this person.
So Maggie, do all the students in your program, do they have a diagnosis? Do they come with a psychoed evaluation with a diagnosed learning disability, or do some come just knowing they need help?
Yeah, that's a great question. And yes, they actually do. It's part of a requirement for our program. They need to have been tested either through their school or, you know, through, they would have had neuropsychological testing. And then that way they do have a diagnosis and we have a better sense of what their needs are. And then, of course, we ask them a lot of questions about what they see their needs are and trying to get them, again, to realize where they could use support. So a lot of obviously not all your students will have that. And with our students too, if they don't, we ask that they have that testing before, you know, we move forward with them, because that's the best way we can support them to know what they need.
So what about, we've talked about, you know, the social emotional side, but you know, it's so easy to focus on the academic side, and we always talk about that aspect, but what are some things that go unasked or not addressed on the academic side that you see as you work with these students in these, especially in the critical times as they're launching their college career?
Well, sometimes there are a couple of things. There's one resource that I love to refer people to that's a free resource, and maybe you know it being in California, and it has to do with what their sensory learning style is. So there's something, Diablo Valley College, which is sort of east of San Francisco. They have a free online assessment, learning assessment, and it just takes like less than 10 minutes to fill out, and it asks questions about things like, I'd rather read material in a textbook than listen to a lecture. And then they answer often, sometimes, seldom. Or I benefit from studying with a partner or study group. You know, and it goes through to see what is the way that they learn best in terms of their sensory. Is it visual? Is it auditory? Is it verbal? Or, you know, talking with others. Anyway, it gives you a very quick 10-minute, a 1 to 2 page report on how to most efficiently study. And it's a great little resource that a lot of people don't know about. And even myself, when I took it, it affirmed what it took me years to figure out. So I recommend it as a great tool from anyone from like 9th grade up. And that way they're more in tune with like what's the most efficient way to study. Is it to be in partnering with someone? Is it to be, if you're kinesthetic? Like right now I'm kinesthetic. I do best walking. I need to move. And I stand at my computer a lot. So my brain's going to be more efficient when I do that. So having them know those kinds of things. And we ask them, I'll just kind of say a couple questions. Like first off, can they summarize, just like do they know why they take their medicine? Can they summarize what their learning difference is or learning disability is and how it affects them in the classroom? Can they express that? And how much support are they getting? A lot of times they're not really that aware. So how much support from parents, guidance counselors, tutors, teachers? Are they using assistive technology, and how does it help them? And sometimes when they're asked that question, we'll see that there are some things they could be doing, like, for instance, the Dragon Naturally, which is the voice-to-text software. Actually, this is a Judy Bass student, and I know, did they already hear Judy's interview?
Yes, we just did it last week, so some may have heard it and some may have not. So
okay, well, one of her students, she was telling me about one of her students, and basically it was taking him 2 hours to do a writing assignment every night, and for an English class. And when he got the voice-to-text Dragon Naturally assistive technology, he cut it down to 20 minutes. And I mean, that's profound, right? 2 hours
Mm-hmm.
for one subject on a weeknight, down to 20 minutes. So if we ask questions like that, we can sometimes be a resource or find out who, if you know, you don't have to be an expert on this, who could help, like where's some assistive technology to help the student. And I guess the other one is, you know, are they able to do take notes, those kinds of things? Are they using, do they record? And one thing, I don't know, maybe you tell me if this is true for your students, but most students don't really know that missing like 1 week of class, I mean, one class is like missing a week of high school. And so just sort of getting them aware of the shift and the change. Yeah.
Yes, and that's definitely, you know, hard for them to take into consideration and understand that they have a lot more studying to do outside of class than inside of class, and that's a big transition for them too. So,
right.
So what are some other resources that you offer and things that you put together have found useful for students and parents as you've worked with them?
There are a lot of, there's a resource we use, which I can send you the PDF to, which is called Shopping for a Program, which is if a student needs more than what a college will offer. Landmark College, they have a great thing called, it's like Assessment for Readiness for College, and again, it's free, Landmark College. So it helps, again, ask some good questions around the academic areas of like, can you read 15 to 20 chapters in a textbook, you know, like sort of what's their speed, that kind of thing. Another resource for especially a family who maybe isn't going to be able to get a lot of testing, it might be out of reach, or maybe they don't think it's appropriate, but they still need to have a sense of where they are. The College Board AccuPlacer, which is an academic assessment tool, and that's through the community colleges. They often offer it, and you pay. It's not a high fee if you're not going there. If you're going there, though, I think it's included. It just depends on the college, and it gives them where are they with their English, math, writing skills. So those kinds of things can be helpful. Then, yeah, and then there's all kinds of apps and all. I can give you, if you want, I'd be happy to give you some of those resources like that just are different. You know, some of them are like a useful app for everyday life organization for the student who has those organization executive functioning. It's called I Procrastinate for iPhone and Android. And even there's one for like grocery shopping, which seems like how's that related to college? But if they're off, you know, at college, do they know how to do those kinds of things to support themselves in wellness? So if you'd like, I'd be happy to send you those.
Yeah, that would be really helpful, Maggie. That would be really helpful. And I know you have an autism toolkit resource available that's available, and also something on summer programs as well.
Yes, so there's the summer programs. Again, I can send you the link to that. And there's 6 different ones that are 6 different the colleges near each of our locations. So I can send information about that. And then the autism learning, it's called an active learning toolkit. It's Autism and Learning Differences, an active learning toolkit. And it's for professionals who work with students on the spectrum, and it's fantastic. It's got all these different exercises and very practical ways to support a student through, again, all these areas: academics, daily life, transition, and careers. And you can find it on Amazon or Jessica Kingsley Publishers. And again, I can send you those links if you'd like.
Yeah, that would be great. And if people want to get a hold of you, how do they reach you, Maggie?
Okay, so they can reach me by email, and it's M for Maggie, Katz, K with a K, K-A-T-Z, at CIPworldwide.org. And then the other way is the other resources. Our website has amazing resources for students with learning differences and for parents, for students. And that website is CIPworldwide.org. and it will have links to also to the summer programs as well. But I often refer people again who our program isn't appropriate or not interested. It is all fine. That we just have a lot of good videos and resources on the website that can be useful to counselors and families.
Absolutely, absolutely. I'm on the website now, and I already see lots of things that would be very beneficial for parents and counselors and others to refer to. So we're out of time, but thank you, Maggie, so much.
Oh, thank you. It's been a
This
pleasure.
has been very
I love doing
helpful.
this.
And,
I know that, oh, sorry.
Go ahead.
I was just going to say that, if you need more support, more questions in the future, or if any of the counselors want support, myself and other people also are happy to do this by phone or even do some kind of workshop. So just know that that's a possibility as well. That's part of what we want to do, is support and help, be a win-win for everyone. So we see that as part of our mission as well, is to help support, educate, so students and families can be successful.
Fabulous. That's fabulous.
Yeah.
And I'm seeing on the website too that you also have opportunities for experience CIP days where counselors and others can come and visit the programs and all the different locations. Yeah. And that sounds like an amazing experience to participate in too.
It is, and we make them very interactive. We want to access everyone's learning style and also just have it be interesting and fun. So they really get to hands-on experience, seeing and participating when either a professional or a student come, and we have the students do something different from the parents and professionals.
Super. Super.
Please. Yeah.
Well, Maggie, thank you very much. Have a great weekend, and I will talk to you again soon, I'm sure.
Thank you so much, Cindy. You too.